friends, it's Gwen and I am here to do my August wrap-up. I read 7 novels and 3 graphic novels, so let's go ahead and jump right in because I have a lot to say. The first book that I read is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. I do have a full review of this on my channel, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it is about Jacqueline Woodson's life growing up in the 60s and 70s. It is written in verse and it just inspires a lot of hope. The next book that I read was Lola and the Boy Next Door by Stephanie Perkins, and it was a goal of mine to finish these companion novels this summer. I did not finish Isla in the Happily Ever After, but I did read this one. It's a YA contemporary book. It's a great summer read, and it follows the story of Lola. She loves creating costumes, and she is dating this rock and roll guy who her fathers do not approve of, but they put up with. And then the twins from next door move back in, and Lola faces a lot of anguish and pain and grief because of something that happened in the past, and of course that is revealed and it kind of gets cleared up and everything like that. But it was very interesting, but I really think I enjoyed Lola a little bit less than I enjoyed Anna and the French Kiss. I rated this 4 stars. The next thing that I read was a graphic novel, and that was El Deafo by CC Bell. This I originally heard about on NPR radio, and of course I am an American Sign Language interpreter student at my college, so to me this just felt like a must read. The artwork inside is very colorful and fun. All of the characters are animals, so I thought that that was very interesting. It tells about Cece's life as being a young deaf girl in elementary school and how she made friends and adjusted to going from being able to hear to being deaf. It was very interesting and a must read for any ASL students in my opinion. I rated this 4 stars. Then I picked up another graphic novel, Locke Key Volume 2 Head Games. This is written by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son, which I did not know that before I read this. I know, I'm behind the times. But I ended up rating this 3 stars. I'm not really sure if I actually like this series or not. The artwork is definitely not my favorite, but it is very well drawn and colored. It's a little bit more dark and gritty than El Deafo and some of the other things that I enjoy a little bit more. This follows a family, the mother and her 3 children. They move to a New England mansion, the Locke House, and there are mysterious rooms and mysterious keys that do fantastical paranormal things, and there are creatures and so forth. So if you're into dark and gritty thriller suspense graphic novels, then this is one for you. I'm just not sure if I want to continue on in the series because it is definitely not my favorite. The problem is that I have had to buy volumes 1 and 2, and they are $20, and I don't know anywhere that I can get them for cheaper than that, and or at least locally, and they don't have them at my public library, so I'm unsure if I'm going to continue on with the series, but I don't know, we'll see. I picked up one more graphic novel, and that was Why the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan. This artwork inside is very comic book feeling. There is some nudity, there is some language, and there is some violence. So this is for mature audiences only. This follows the story of the last man and his monkey, and they are the only men in the entire world because a virus has wiped out every other man. He is trying to get to Australia to, you know, check on his girlfriend and make sure everything is okay there. But there are so many layers to this story. Political, post-apocalyptic, feminist, because of course there's only females left, and kind of like gangs and stuff like that, and just kind of the world reorganizing itself after all the men are taken out. There are so many layers in this, it's almost too much to take in one volume. It could have definitely been split up, or maybe not as much talked about all in this first volume. They could have left some of the things out and kind of spaced through them throughout the series, but I really did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars just because it was a little too much. Then I picked up Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I did take this with me on my honeymoon, and it took me a week to read, and I finished it up in the airport. But I really enjoyed this. This is the book that I always miss the movie of. I always watch the first one and then I kind of go away from the movies and then I kind of catch the end ones. So it was great to run into Moaning Myrtle again and all of the other characters. Lots more character development. This is my first time reading this. Magical and beautiful, as you can imagine. I gave it 5 stars. Then, since I was trapped in the Miami International Airport for 12 hours, I knew I was going to have to pick up something else, and I picked up Dietland by Saray Walker. I really enjoyed this. This kind of came out of nowhere. I saw a review of this book on Colleen from Creating Colleen's channel. It was the first video she ever posted, and just her review alone had me really intrigued from this book. If I had not seen that review, I probably would have never picked this up on my own, but I'm really glad I saw that review because it made me pick it up, and I really enjoyed this. I hope to do a full review of it because it does follow the main protagonist in this is Plum, and she is an overweight female. She writes for a teenage magazine, kind of a advice type column under the guise of being the owner of the magazine. Plum is scheduled to have lap band surgery in a couple of months, but as the lap band surgery approaches, she notices a woman following her, and she's intrigued who this woman is and why she seems to be writing notes in a little notebook about her. So she approaches this woman, and the woman starts leaving clues, and down the rabbit hole you go. A whole new world opens up, and I can definitely see how the writer was inspired by Fight Club. It's exactly how this book felt. You never knew what was going to happen next, and I really enjoyed it. I gave this book 4 stars. Then I accidentally read my buddy read for September, and that was Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. I have heard very little about this book, and that is because I have been avoiding anything about this book like the plague because I heard it was amazing and I needed to read it, and then I avoided it because I didn't want to be spoiled. I know this is Whitney's probably favorite series ever, and I have seen tons of you guys reviewing it and talking about it and raving about it everywhere, but I have avoided it because I wanted to experience it for myself. I went to go ahead and put my bookmark in the very front because I like to, be ready, and so I was going to put it on chapter 1, and as soon as I turned to chapter 1, it has strike through on a couple of the lines, so that had me intrigued, and I read the first line, and it says, "I've been locked up for 264 days. So of course I had to read a little bit more. I planned on just reading the first page, but it left mid-sentence. So I had to read the second page, and before I knew it, I was done with the first chapter, and I was on to chapter 2. I read this book in a couple of hours. It's the first book in recent history that I remember reading in just one sitting. And like I said, before I knew it, I was completely finished with it. And I was shocked because the little snippets that I have heard or read about this book, I was surprised when I was reading, and I kept saying, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Because I had my own assumptions about what was going to happen. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. I don't want to talk too much about it because I know Elizabeth still has to read it in September, so we can continue on with the series together this time, but I really enjoyed this. I still had some time left in the day, and I was still trapped in bed all day, so I read Eve and Adam. This is part of my first book outlet unboxing haul that I did back last fall, and the cover just had me very intrigued, and the story sounded really interesting. It follows the story of Eve. She is in this terrible streetcar accident, and of course she is rushed to the hospital. Her leg is broken. I think something's wrong with her arm, and her face is bashed up and bruised and stuff. Her mother has this research facility, so she rushes to the hospital and removes her from the hospital against the wishes of the doctors and takes her to her research facility, and it's basically like this complex, and her daughter isn't really sure exactly everything that's going on in the complex, and her mom is a little bit snooty. She's like a billionaire, so she just can throw money away. But while she's in the hospital recovering, her mom suggests that she try out this new software that they are developing, and you can create a person. So it's kind of like a sim. And she creates Adam, and she can design everything about him, and things happen. She gets to know people that work there and find out there's really more going on at this research facility than meets the eye. I really enjoyed this book. I wish the ending was a little bit cleaner, and I wish some of the side characters were developed a little bit better, but I rated this 4 stars. Last but not least, I read Mind Games by Kristen White, and I also read this in pretty much one sitting. This story follows 2 sisters who each have their own separate powers. Annie is the older sister, and she is blind, but she can see visions and of what's going to happen in the future. So she's able to use that to her advantage after she's able to learn how to control her power a little bit better. And then the other sister is Sophia. She goes by Fia, and her power is that she has perfect instincts. I think we all wish we could have perfect instincts. So that makes her a great fighter and a great decision maker, and you can imagine the type of things that she's able to do with those instincts. Their parents die in a horrible car crash. They are sent to live with their Aunt Ellen, and Ellen takes them to this school under the guise that it's this amazing school that's going to help Anna like maybe get her sight back, and they end up going in there together. And really it's kind of a home for special girls with powers, and they end up working for this organization. Fia wants to get away, of course, but she doesn't want to leave her sister Annie behind, so it just kind of follows them on their journey and things that happen to them. I would have enjoyed this story a lot more if it wasn't told in dual perspective and if it didn't jump around time periods so much. It went from 7 years ago to 2.5 years ago to present day to 2.5 years ago to present day, and of course you're flipping back and forth perspectives, so it was a little jumbled and I really didn't enjoy the writing style, but the story was very intriguing. And the plot had me reading what would happen next, and I rated it 3 stars because it was pretty interesting. But those are the books that I read in August. It was a quite bit more than I was expecting to read, but let me know what you read in August and what you're looking forward to reading in September. That's all I have for you today. I'll see you again soon. Bye!